The sky above the floating city of Valoria burned like a dying sun. Red flames crawled across crystal towers, smoke rose in twisting shapes, and the ground trembled under every explosion. The royal capital, once a place of music and shining light, had turned into a battlefield. Every street echoed with the sound of breaking stone and terrified screams. In the middle of that chaos ran one human, Elias Stone. He was covered in ash, his breathing heavy, his armor cracked in several places. His arms shook from exhaustion, but he would not stop. Not now. Not while the princess in his arms still had a breath left. Princess Lyria's body felt light but fragile, like she could shatter if he held her too tightly. Her lavender skin was bruised, her silver hair burned at the ends, her breaths weak and painful. She had been trapped under fallen crystal pillars when Elias found her, crushed and barely conscious. Fire had been closing in around her, and the enemy forces had been seconds away. If he had arrived a moment later, she would be dead. Stay with me, Elias whispered as he ran through the ruined corridor. His voice shook, but he forced it steady. Don't sleep. Don't close your eyes. Her eyelids fluttered, her voice faint. Human. Why save me? Elias didn't know how to explain it. He wasn't a royal guard. He wasn't even from Valoria. He was only a visiting soldier from the Human Alliance, assigned to help with defense planning. He didn't know her anything. He didn't know anyone here anything. But when he saw her trapped and crying in fear, something inside him moved. Something old, something simple. Because someone needed help, because you deserve to live, he said. And I was there. The walls around them shook as another blast hit nearby. Sparks rained down like burning snow. Elias shielded her head with his arm and kept running. He didn't know the palace layout well, but he knew staying in one place meant death. The enemy wanted her. They wanted the royal line to end. If Princess Lyria died, the Valorian people would lose hope, and their enemies would take the throne easily. Elias wasn't going to let that happen. When he reached a large open hall, he saw the last evacuation ship rising in the distance through the shattered roof. Its engines flared bright as it lifted away. It was the final ship meant to carry survivors to safety, and it was leaving them behind. Elias stopped, panting, staring in disbelief. They were too late. He looked down at the princess. Her face was pale, her lips trembling as she tried to breathe. She was slipping away from him, fading like a dying light. He couldn't give up. Hang on, he said softly. I'll keep you safe, I promise. With no escape route left, his only option was madness running deeper into the palace, toward the throne chamber. Toward the place the enemy army was overrunning. He shifted her weight gently, tightening his grip, and turned toward the danger. The enemy soldiers burst through doors on both sides of the hall. Their armor glowed red, their weapons humming with energy. They saw the princess, their eyes sharpened. There, one shouted. Kill the human. Kill the heir. Elias didn't think. He moved, he sprinted forward, holding the princess close against his chest as blasts of energy shot past him, striking pillars and shattering crystal walls. Heat brushed against his skin, cutting through his armor, but he didn't stop. Pain was nothing. Fear was nothing. Getting her away was everything. He kicked open another door and slid behind a collapsed statue, panting heavily. Lyria's fingers switched weakly against his chest. You're safe, he whispered, even though he knew it wasn't true. You're safe with me. Her voice was barely a breath. You are strange, human. He laughed softly, even as tears burned in his eyes. Yeah, humans do stupid things, like running into fire. Footsteps echoed closer, enemy troops surrounding them. Elias wiped sweat from his forehead and looked down at her peaceful, fading face. He was only one man, one soldier with no backup, no escape, and no chance of winning. But he still stood up. He still set his feet. He still faced the danger head on. Because he had made a promise, and humans were creatures who kept promises even if it killed them. Elias tightened his grip on the princess, whispered one last time, I won't let them take you, and stepped into the path of an army. The battle ended in a silence so heavy it pressed against the chest. Smoke hung thick in the air, and the remains of crystal towers glimmered like broken stars scattered across the ground. The enemy had fled, defeated or at least scattered, but the city was a graveyard of destruction. Bodies of soldiers and civilians lay everywhere. Fires still burned in pockets, casting flickering orange light over the ruins. Queen Aravel arrived then, her golden robes brushing the cracked floor. Her eyes were sharp, alert, but even she could not hide the shock that froze her heart. Her guards followed closely, scanning the halls, checking for survivors. And then, they stopped. A human soldier sat alone amid the wreckage, leaning against a broken wall. His armor was torn, his body covered in ash and blood. A spear jutted out of his shoulder, a long scratch running across his cheek, and his boots were scorched from the fire. And yet, he clutched something in his arms as if the world itself would not dare take it away. Princess Lyria, she lay still, her body bruised, her hair singed, her breath shallow and trembling. But she was alive. And she was alive because of him. The queen's voice trembled despite the years of command and discipline. "Release her. She is safe now," she said softly. Elias barely lifted his head. His eyes, dark and tired, met hers. "Not until I know she's alive," he said, his voice low but firm. A healer rushed forward, examining the princess with quick, practiced hands. After a long moment, she nodded. "She lives, Majesty. Thanks to him, he saved her life." Elias let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Relief washed over him, but it was shallow, fleeting. The wounds and burns throbbed painfully, but he smiled faintly. For the first time in days, he allowed himself a small feeling of hope. The queen stared at him, and in that moment, she saw something she had never expected. No Valyrian would survive what he had survived. No soldier would fight alone against dozens of attackers, risk his life in collapsing towers, and carry the royal heir through fire and smoke. Yet here he was, alive and still holding her daughter. "What kind of creature are you?" she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "I am human," Elias replied simply. The queen's hands trembled. She knelt beside him, examining the exhaustion etched across his face. She could see every wound, every scar, every faint tremor from pain. And still, in his arms, Lyria was safe. The moment stretched into something fragile and sacred. The queen, who had commanded armies and kingdoms, who had never once faltered in her rule, felt an emotion she could not name. Gratitude, yes, but more than that, something deeper, respect. Awe, fear, a strange aching admiration. Her daughter stirred slightly in Elias's arms, murmuring, "Human." "Why?" "Because someone had to," he said softly. "Because you deserved a chance to live. Because I could." Lyria's small hand rested against his chest, trembling, as if she was testing the reality of life itself. Her silver eyes blinked weakly at him, and the queen noticed the trust shining there. Trust that no Valyrian had ever given so freely to a human. For the first time, Queen Aravel understood the human spirit in a way she could never have imagined. Humans did not fight for glory. They did not act for power or reward. They acted because they felt, because they believed, because they cared. Elias had risked everything. He had faced death with no thought for his own life. And he had carried her daughter through fire, smoke, and blood. She felt something stir in her chest, a dangerous, unsettling warmth, gratitude, admiration, respect, something that was not meant to mix with fear or authority. Something human, she realized, and it frightened her. The healer adjusted Lyria, checking her injuries, then looked at the queen. "She is stable now. She will survive, only because of him." Queen Aravel's gaze did not leave Elias. She knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You did the impossible," she said quietly. "You saved my daughter when everyone else failed." Elias coughed softly, a faint smile brushing his lips. "I did what I had to." The queen straightened, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. In that instant, she realized that this human was not just brave. He was extraordinary, dangerous, unpredictable, alive in ways Valyrians could not imagine. And for reasons she could not explain, she did not want him to leave. Elias woke slowly. The first thing he noticed was the soft light. It was warm, gentle, and unlike the harsh flashes of fire and explosion he had run through just days ago. His body ached. Every muscle, every bone, every cut reminded him of the battle, the fire, the endless corridors he had run through to save Princess Lyria. He tried to sit up, and the room spun. He groaned, rolling onto his side, only to find his arms restrained by soft, glowing bandages. He looked around. The walls were made of smooth crystal, glowing faintly with the pulse of life energy. Strange patterns moved across them, and the air smelled sweet, like flowers he had never known. "Ah, you are awake." The voice came from the doorway. Princess Lyria stood there, her expression soft but worried. Her silver hair framed her pale face. Her lavender skin glowed faintly in the light. She had changed in just a few days, no longer weak and fading, but still fragile, like a delicate flower that had survived a storm. "You survived," she said, almost as if she could not believe it. Elias tried to smile. "I told you. I wasn't leaving you behind." She stepped closer, reaching out a trembling hand to touch his. Why would you risk everything for me?" Her voice was soft, full of awe, and just a hint of confusion. He laughed softly, even as he winced from pain. "Humans, we do things like that. For no reason other than it feels right. You were in danger. I couldn't just watch it happen." She sat beside him, her eyes searching his face. "No one has ever done something like this for me. Not my guards. Not my teachers. No one. You. You are strange, human." "I guess I am," he admitted, closing his eyes briefly. Pain still throbbed in his shoulder, but he didn't care. He had promised her life, and he had kept that promise. Just then, the doors to the room opened, and 2 royal guards stepped in. Their posture was stiff, professional. They did not speak, but their presence reminded Elias of the strange truth he had begun to sense. He was not free. "You must rest," one said, the glow of his hand hovering over Elias's wounds. "The Queen commands it." Elias frowned. "Rest? I'm fine." The second guard stepped closer. "You are not allowed to leave the palace, human." Elias froze. His heart skipped a beat. Not allowed? Before the guards could answer, the door opened wider, and Queen Aravel entered. Her golden robes moved like liquid light across the floor, her eyes sharp, alert, and unreadable. She studied him, her gaze lingering longer than was comfortable. "You have done more than any Valorian soldier could," she said slowly. "You saved my daughter. You carried her through fire, through death, and you survived when none should have. For this, you have our gratitude." Elias listened, expecting praise. But her words stopped before the warmth he hoped for arrived. "And because of this, you will not leave our care." The words struck him like a blow. His chest tightened, and the bandages around his body seemed to weigh him down. "I don't understand," he said, his voice raw. "I saved her. I did what I had to do. Why am I being kept here?" Queen Aravel's expression did not soften. "You are extraordinary. Humans are unpredictable, powerful, emotional. You risked your life for someone you barely knew. You carry strength we do not understand. For that reason, you cannot leave. Not yet." Elias's mind raced. Captivity, honors, safety, all of it mixed into a confusing storm. He wanted to argue, to demand freedom, but he could not find the strength. His body ached too much. His spirit wanted action, but the Queen's command held like an invisible chain. Princess Lyria reached out and placed her hand on his arm. "Elias, don't let it scare you. You saved me. That's what matters." He looked into her silver eyes. For the first time, he felt a pang of helplessness. He had fought so hard to save her life, and now he could not even save himself from being trapped. The Queen stepped forward, her gaze steady. "Rest now, human. Heal, and understand that your actions have changed Valoria forever. You are not just a soldier. You are part of our world now, whether you want it or not." Elias lay back against the soft bed, closing his eyes. Pain, confusion, and a strange sense of awe filled him. He had saved a princess from death, faced impossible odds, and survived. Yet here he was, alive but not free, and he understood, in a way that burned deeper than any wound, that humans sometimes fought battles bigger than enemies, battles for trust, for respect, for freedom. And sometimes, those battles had no clear victory, only choices that weighed on the heart. Princess Lyria whispered, leaning close. "I'm here. I'll stay with you." Elias nodded faintly. "Thank you. That means more than you know." And in the quiet room, with the faint glow of healing magic and the soft hum of the palace around them, Elias understood that survival was only the beginning. The real struggle, one of trust, courage, and heart, was just starting. Days passed in the glowing palace, but for Elias, each day felt like a silent cage. The walls were beautiful smooth crystal, glowing faintly with the pulse of life energy, but no beauty could hide the truth. He was trapped. He could walk through the halls, eat the finest food, sleep in soft beds, but he could not leave. Guards followed his every step. Every door, every balcony, every corridor was watched. Princess Lyria visited often. She smiled gently, her silver hair catching the soft light, her lavender skin glowing faintly. When she came, the world seemed less heavy. Her presence was comforting, like the first warmth of sunlight after a long winter. She brought flowers from the palace gardens, sometimes speaking quietly, sometimes just sitting beside him in silence. "Elias," she said one evening, handing him a small glowing flower, "I brought this for you. You deserve something beautiful, after all you've done." He took it, smiling faintly, though his heart felt heavy. Thank you, Lyria. It's beautiful. Like this place, but I don't feel free here. I feel trapped. Her eyes fell, and she looked away. I know, the Queen says it's for your safety. But it feels like a cage. Even for you. Elias nodded slowly. It's more than a cage. It's golden, soft, comfortable, but still. A cage. She reached out and touched his arm gently. I don't want you to leave, but I also don't want you to be unhappy. He looked into her silver eyes, feeling a pain he could not name. He had fought to save her life, dragged her through fire and death, and now he could not save himself from this invisible trap. And the worst part? He knew she cared for him. He could see it in the way her gaze lingered, in the way her hand shook slightly when she touched him. One night, Elias stood on the balcony. The city below was silent, smoke rising from distant fires that had long since burned out. Stars sparkled in the dark sky above, and he imagined Earth somewhere far away. His home, his family, his life before Valoria. And he was not there. I found him there, wrapped in his own thoughts. You're staring at the stars, she said softly. I'm thinking, he admitted. I'm thinking about leaving. And what it would mean. Her eyes filled with something between fear and sorrow. Leaving? She whispered. Elias. You can't just leave. I don't know what I would do without you. He turned to her, feeling the weight of her words press against him. And I don't want to hurt you. But I am human, Lyria. I can't be caged even in a palace of gold. I can't live under someone else's command forever, no matter how kind they are. She trembled, tears brimming in her silver eyes. Then, what do we do? Elias shook his head. I don't know, I just know that I can't stay here. Not like this. I have to find my own path, even if it means leaving the safest place I've ever known. She reached out, clutching his arm tightly. I don't want to lose you, she said, her voice breaking. Elias knelt beside her, his hands holding hers gently. And I don't want to leave you. But humans, we do not live in cages, even golden ones. We fight for freedom, for choices. I can protect you, I can save you. But I can't stay trapped here for the rest of my life. She looked down, tears falling silently. Then, you will go? I must, he said quietly. But I will never forget you, Lyria. Never forget your smile, your courage, or the trust you gave me when no one else could. She rested her head against his chest, letting him hold her for a moment. The wind brushed past them, carrying the faint scent of crystal flowers from the palace gardens. In that moment, it felt like the world had stopped, holding its breath for them both. And as Elias looked out into the dark sky, he understood something painfully clear. He had saved a princess from death. But he was now trapped in a palace of gold, trapped by respect, gratitude, and something far more dangerous, love. Queen Aravel had not made a mistake in keeping him close. But the human spirit could not be caged, even with honor, beauty, or power. And Elias Stone, the human who walked into fire to save a princess, would one day find a way to decide his own fate. Even if it broke hearts along the way, the throne room was quiet, yet heavy with tension. Queen Aravel's golden robes shimmered in the soft light, and her eyes, sharp as blades, never left Elias. He stood before her, battered but upright, still carrying the weight of exhaustion from the fire, the battle, and the days of healing. His wounds had mostly closed, but his spirit felt raw, stretched between relief, pride, and unease. You have done the impossible, human, the queen said slowly, her voice echoing softly through the high hall. You carried my daughter through death, through fire, through impossible odds, and survived when none should have. Elias bowed slightly, his dark eyes meeting hers. I only did what anyone would do, he said humbly. I saved her because she needed me. Queen Aravel's lips pressed into a thin line. No Valorian would have done what you did. Not even the bravest soldiers in my army. You acted alone, without strategy, without thinking of yourself. And for that, you have changed everything. Elias shifted uncomfortably. He had not come to Valoria to be honored. He had come to do his duty, and now he felt exposed under her gaze. As if she could see not just his actions, but the heart behind them. You see, she continued, her tone softening just slightly, my daughter. She watches you. She thinks about you constantly. She trusts you more than anyone else in the palace. You have entered her heart in ways that no other being could. You are her light, human. And for that, you are dangerous. Elias blinked, confused. Dangerous? I don't understand. The queen stepped closer, her eyes piercing into his very soul. You saved her life. You risked everything for her. She admires you. She cares for you. And because of that, she may follow you, abandon her duties, abandon her people. She may walk away from the life she is born to lead. The words fell heavily, and Elias's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of them like a hand pressing against his heart. And that is why you keep me here? He asked quietly. Yes, she replied, steady and unwavering. Because if you leave, the consequences could be catastrophic. You have shown her the strength and courage she has never known. And now, she would risk everything to be near you. I cannot allow that. Not my daughter. Not my kingdom. Elias looked down. He had faced enemies, explosions, fire, and death, but never this. This invisible wall, this quiet authority that restrained him not with chains or weapons, but with fear and love, respect and loyalty. It was heavier than any blade. I understand, he said finally, though he did not. He understood her intent, but he could not accept the thought of staying forever. But I am human. I cannot be kept like this. Even for the princess. Even for you. Even for your kingdom. Queen Aravel's golden eyes softened for just a fraction of a second, and then hardened again. You are human, and humans are strong, unpredictable, relentless. That is exactly why I cannot let you go. Not yet. You have proven your worth, your bravery, and your heart. But freedom. Freedom may be your greatest challenge, and also your greatest danger. Elias swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, to fight, to push back against her words. But he could see the truth in them. The queen was not cruel. She was wise. She understood humans in ways he did not yet understand himself. She saw the danger of the bond between him and Lyria. Princess Lyria stepped forward then, her silver eyes wide, trembling slightly. Mother, please, she said softly. He saved me. I want him near me. He is the one who gave me life when I almost lost it. The queen looked at her daughter, and then back at Elias. Her voice was calm, but there was an unshakable firmness in it. And that is why human, you must remain. Not as a prisoner, but as a guardian. You have given life to the princess, and now, you are bound to her by more than chance. For her safety, for the kingdom's safety. And for yours. Elias's heart ached. He had risked everything to save Lyria, and now, he was bound to her not by choice, but by the careful, unwavering decision of the queen. He wanted to argue, to break free, but he also understood something deep in his bones. Humans sometimes fought battles beyond the reach of swords. Battles of trust, of respect, of duty, and this was one of them. Princess Lyria reached out, her hand trembling as she touched his arm. I don't care about rules, mother, she whispered. I care about him. I care about what he did for me. I care about him. Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest. The queen's warning was clear, her authority absolute, but her daughter's words. They struck at something deeper, something he could not resist. He nodded slowly, looking into Lyria's silver eyes. I will stay. For now, he said quietly. For you. But know this, humans are not made to be caged forever. Not even for queens. Queen Aravel studied him silently, her expression unreadable. And in that quiet moment, Elias understood. He had saved a princess from death. And now, he was about to enter a world where his heart would be tested in ways no battle ever could. Night had fallen over the crystal city of Valoria. The palace glittered like a jewel under the stars, but for Elias, every glittering corridor felt like a golden cage. He had healed physically, but his heart and mind ached with the invisible chains of duty, honor, and expectation. He could not stay here forever. He would never be truly free if he did. He moved silently through the halls, careful not to disturb the guards patrolling the soft-lit corridors. Each step carried a mixture of fear and determination. If he left, he would face anger, perhaps even danger. But staying meant sacrificing his freedom, the very thing that defined him as human. He reached a balcony overlooking the city. The wind brushed past his face, carrying the distant scent of fire-scorched crystal flowers. Stars sparkled far above, and for a moment, he imagined Earth, far away, his home. He longed for it. He missed it. But most of all, he missed living life on his own terms. Then, he felt a presence behind him. Princess Lyria stood there, her silver hair catching the moonlight, her lavender skin glowing faintly. She had followed him quietly, as she always did. drawn to his courage, his heart, and the bond forged in fire and blood. "You are going to leave without saying goodbye," she said softly. Her voice trembling, Elias turned to her, pain flashing across his dark eyes. I didn't want to hurt you." "You saved me," she whispered. "You held me when I was dying. You gave me hope. How can I let you walk away now?" He took a deep breath. Her words, full of longing and sorrow, struck him harder than any enemy weapon ever could. "Lyria, I have to go. I cannot stay in a palace as a prisoner. I cannot live under someone else's command forever, even if it is a palace of gold, even if it is for your safety." Her hands clutched his clothes. "I want you here. I don't care about rules, about danger, about anything else. I care about you." Elias closed his eyes. He had risked everything to save her, had dragged her through fire and death. And now, she would risk everything to keep him here. His heart twisted painfully. "I can't be caged," he whispered, voice breaking. "I can't, humans. We fight for freedom, for choice. We fight for the right to live our lives, even if it's hard, even if it hurts. I am human, Lyria. That is who I am." Tears streamed down her face. "Then you will leave?" He nodded slowly. "I must. I will never forget you. I will never forget what you mean to me. But staying here would destroy the part of me that makes me human." She sank to her knees, her head resting against his chest. He held her gently, feeling the warmth of her heartbeat, feeling the bond they had formed in fire and blood. It tore him apart to leave her, and yet he knew he had no choice. "I wish I could stay," she whispered, barely audible. I wish you had never rescued me." The words cut deeper than any blade. He kissed her forehead softly. "So do I," he said, voice trembling. "So do I." Then he stepped back, gently, slowly, so she could see him make the choice she could not stop. He turned toward the balcony, toward the unknown, toward freedom. For a moment, Lyria's eyes followed him, wide and desperate. "Elias!" She cried, but it was too late. He had already begun his descent from the palace walls, slipping silently into the night. The guards remained unaware. The queen, as far as he knew, had not intervened yet. The city lay silent beneath him, the stars above bright and cold. Elias's heart ached, but each step down the palace walls reminded him of who he was. Not a prisoner, not a hero to be chained. A human. Free, even if leaving hurt more than dying ever could. When he finally reached the ground, he paused. The princess's face flashed in his mind, silver eyes filled with tears, trembling lips, and the soft warmth of her hand in his. He had saved a life, but in doing so, he had also broken a heart. He looked up at the palace one last time. Queen Aravel's palace, glowing and golden, had kept him safe, kept him alive. But it had also tried to hold him in chains of gratitude, duty, and love. And he could not stay, no matter how beautiful those chains were. Far above, the stars stretched endlessly. For the first time in weeks, Elias felt the true weight of freedom. It was bittersweet, painful, terrifying, but it was his Dot, and as he stepped into the darkness, leaving the golden palace behind, he understood something clearly. Humans were not meant to be caged. Even for love, even for honor, even for queens. Humans were meant to fight, to choose, to live. And he would.